Let's bring in Nick Swisher, the former Yankee Indian A. That last
only if you need a little bit of coffee, brother. Only if you need something.
Now, first of all, you were last night set to interview the winning team.
Yeah.
So you were at the stadium.
Yeah.
And like, what dugout were you hanging in?
No. It was just in the green room. No. I don't have a dugout.
So then you sprint to the.
Yeah. Just like after the game. I mean, literally, you stand behind center field, and as soon as the game over, it's like they open up the doors, and it's like just like a herd of cattle coming out. You know what I mean? Like everybody going to their sets, trying to get their post-game show set up.
Okay, so let's first, before we talk about tonight, which has all sorts of drama. I'm watching that game last night, and I said I get Verlander. Nothing against Rich Hill, but I know they're going to yank him early.
Of course.
And so my takeaway was I'll take Verlander. How do you explain Houston's utter inability to hit away from home? Go to your career. Were there parks you couldn't hit in?
You know what? I think it was the same thing when they were in New York as well. It just kind of seemed like we talked about. They leave the great state of Texas and they forget some things. I think that's kind of been the story of this entire postseason is that home field advantage has been
massive.
So crucial.
And it's funny. I've never, what's really interesting is that in my life, baseball was always the sport that I didn't care about home field. In fact, the only time in my life I felt home field advantage meant anything in baseball was when the Twins with Kirby Puckett.
Oh, yeah. Well, by the way, the old Metrodome was loud, man. That place could get rocking.
And I think Jack Morris and Kent Herbeck. And I was like, okay, the Metrodome won the World Series.
Yeah.
But Atlanta teams and all this stuff. Houston at home is unbeatable.
Unstoppable. It's just
unstoppable.
You know what? I feel like there is something to be said for guys' routines, the things they do when they're at home compared to when they're on the road. If I'm the Houston Astros, I might find a new hotel. Maybe put my guy, maybe it's too late. Try and find something a little different to get these guys going. But then again, let's think about it, man. Game 7, this is like little kid stuff, man. Like in your backyard, 3-2 count, bases loaded, Game 7.
You know what really made me happy? So Jock Peterson, for those who don't live in Los Angeles, a couple years ago, and they thought he was a star.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of strikeouts.
Well, he was in the home run derby and just crushing
and
baseballs.
Then living in LA, I see the story, and then all of a sudden he's all wound up in his swing, a lot of strikeouts, and I think like he gets benched. I think he got demoted to AAA.
Yes, sir, he did.
Okay, and then now he's crazy. So for him, of all the Dodgers to come into this World Series and bombs.
I mean, also on top of the home runs, 5 for 14 in the World Series, 3 home runs, 4th Dodger to ever do that. And think about this. The one thing that I look at when I look at Jock is I know he has talent. We all know that. We've all seen it. The one thing that really kind of sticks with me is when he was demoted and found out that he was going on that NLCS roster, right? And Kike's hitting all these home runs, and the guy that took his spot, his biggest fan, Jock was his biggest fan. And I think that's kind of a testament to the Dodgers team. Like, feels like they are a team, and they are rooting for each other. And regardless of who's in that lineup, they're expecting these guys to go out and do a great job.
Okay, now I like manalytics over analytics.
I heard you say that earlier. That's a good word.
I like analytics as long as the stars, like Verlander, Kershaw, I want, so it's
just
analytics.
The big boys.
I like some analytics, but don't screw with my stars. So tonight, I wonder if, for instance, Houston has Lance McCullers.
Right.
They're shot. They've got no closer, no setup guy. Okay, now this is a 24-year-old emotional kid. Darvish, meanwhile, has to throw the slider.
Yes.
So but they have their bullpen ready. Will Kenley Jansen go again tonight?
Hey, by the way, any of these guys that are asked to do anything, they will be ready for it.
So what is your prediction? Will the game be longer? Like, what's your gut feeling on what we'll see tonight?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, if you're talking about pressure-wise, I definitely think there's more pressure on the Houston Astros and a guy like Lance McCullers Jr. because he doesn't have as much of a bullpen. These guys they've been overworked. They've been overexposed.
And they were okay to begin with.
Well, and also, too, on this side, Darvish. I mean, he really struggled in Game 3. Really couldn't find, only threw 49 pitches. This guy is fresh. He is ready. And by the way, you remember the 2014 World Series when Madison Bumgarner came out of the bullpen, 2 days rest, pitched 5 shutout innings. Clayton Kershaw is itching for the chance to do something like that.
So you go into a game tonight where I would argue I don't see Darvish to me as a big game pitcher. I see him as a really talented pitcher,
yes, totally,
who has some misgivings now about a slider because of the texture of the ball. I think here's the game. Give me the score in the 6th inning, and I'll tell you who wins the game.
No doubt.
So if McCullers struggles, they've got no backup plan.
I think this is going to be one of those longer games. I think there's going to be a lot of mound visits, a lot of pitching changes, because you got to think about it. All hands are on deck. Every single pitcher that you have, other than the starting pitcher, will be in the bullpen come the first pitch of the game. So I think just in general, regardless of who A.J. Hinch needs to turn to, he will turn to. Because, by the way, there's no more games tomorrow. This is the end of the season, baby. Hey, winner of Game 7 takes the whole shebang.
So let's go back to last night. I'm watching the game, and Verlander was very dominant.
Cruising?
After the game, Verlander's thoughts were kind of like, "That's great."
Yeah.
Do you think there's a little negative vibe with Houston? Like, you couldn't hit in Yankee Stadium.
Right.
You can't hit here. Like, is it? And then Verlander's great, and he's kind of after the game saying, "Yeah, that was great. Don't pin it on me."
Yeah.
Like, the mental aspect of tonight, is Houston in a good spot?
Well, I tell you what, I feel like you have to be. And whether you are or you're not, come start of the game, you better find a way to get to that spot. I feel like many people don't get that opportunity to play in that Game 7. I think this has happened, this is the 39th time that it's ever happened.
By the way, it's the first Game 7 Dodger Stadium history.
They've had everybody from Elton John to the Doors. Everybody on the planet has played Dodger Stadium. There's never been a Game 7.
Ever.
And tonight we're going to see that, man. I'm excited. I think this is kind of one of those series for the ages. And not only that, kudos to the fans, man. People have come out. Non-baseball fans are watching baseball, man. I'm loving this.
It is interesting that I said this years ago that nothing grows to the sky. And it's an old cliche on Wall Street. Trees don't grow to the sky. At some point, Microsoft met its match. The NFL right now, it is.
You reach a level.
Yeah, I think at the end, fantasy football came into the NFL. And even like my sister, who's not a big football fan. So this 15% of this audience about 2-3 years ago, DraftKings, came into the audience.
Yeah.
And the NFL owners are like, what? That's the new reality. No.
Right.
You peaked. This NFL business is now at where it's always been. You get good numbers. But I do feel there is something about baseball. Baseball lost its water cooler sort of vibe. Right? Nobody talked about it. You don't bet baseball.
Totally.
But there is something going on. The rating last night even beat the Cubs rating.
Right? Come on, man. The Chicago Cubs, a team that hasn't won the World Series for 100 years.
That last night, this game beat Game 6.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how awesome is baseball right now? Like, just in general, I can walk around this whole place beating my chest because I know that our sport of baseball is king right now.
When you look at this, if I said to you, which one of these organizations sustains this for 5 years? Like, doesn't Houston have a roster full of guys?
Oh, yeah.
Whose contracts are coming up?
Well, true. And you talk about that.
So could this be, Houston, you better win this year?
Well, that's also what we said about Kansas City as well. Like with Mike Moustakas, Eric Hosmer, all the free agents they have over. That's what I'm saying. So I feel like to have the ability to play in the World Series, you have to take full advantage of that. Because you don't know how many times that this team, by the way, this particular team, the Houston Astros of 2017, will never, ever, ever be the same. With free agents and the way new players are coming up. By the way, I feel like this youthful, exuberant boom in our game is the reason why we have these fans. People are locking onto these guys that are hopefully in our game for 10, 15 years, that we can watch these guys that have become household names right in front of our eyes.
If you're a manager tonight in this game, Jock Peterson is really playing well. Chris Taylor. Is there anybody, because you could get into a situation, because you're predicting tonight we're going to have more runs, more pitching changes.
Yes,
could be closer to 8-7.
Totally.
Which I know you love, I don't.
I dig those homer games.
I hate them. I can't stand it. Last night to me was as good as sports get. Is there anybody for either team? Would you pitch around Springer? Would you pitch around Jock? When you get to this moment, is there a batter tonight that if you were an opposing manager, you would pitch around?
2 red circles I got on each lineup. Red circle, Carlos Correa. Red circle, Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger has struggled. 4 punch-outs last night, but we know what he's capable of doing. There's always that one guy in the middle of the lineup that you don't want to beat you. And if that's the case, hey, maybe Justin Turner, the way he's struggled as of late for a little bit, but there's no doubt he could put the bat on the baseball. So I think just in general, you've got multiple guys. But for me, a Cody Bellinger or a Carlos Correa, those are the guys that you have to keep from hitting the long ball.
Who do you like tonight?
I like the Dodgers, baby. Game 7. I mean, I feel like the atmosphere is going to be electric. I feel like the stats don't necessarily say that, but I don't know, man. I'm a gut guy. That's why I'm not a manager. That's why I'm sitting here. But I feel like with my gut, the Los Angeles Dodgers take tonight.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from the newest show on FS1, First Things First, with Chris Carter and Nick Wright.